recent years, there has been an uptick in Western and Western-themed games, with entries like Red Dead Redemption 2, Weird West, Hard West 1, Hard West 2, Evil West, Blood West, and West of Loathing, along with some other upcoming Wests, I'm sure. But long before all this, there was a small series from a Polish developer, Techland, called Call of Juarez. Call of Juarez is a franchise of 4 games at the moment, with the first game, Call of Juarez, being a decent time to play. Bound in Blood, the second game, was a prequel to the first game and was a good time with a friend in co-op. And Cartel, the third game, was a more modern take that was so bad and embarrassing that when it came to renew the licenses, Techland didn't, and it is the only game in the franchise that can no longer be bought digitally. And then there's Call of Juarez Gunslinger, the final game and topic of this video, an experience that I feel has been the only game that has ever come close to making the player feel like an old Western folk hero. I'm the Red Riot Robot, and this is Call of Juarez Gunslinger.
Don't I know you, sir?
Don't believe so. I haven't been here in many years. Name's Silas Greaves.
Silas Greaves? The bounty hunter?
Used to be.
What are you doing here in Abilene?
Just passing through. Got a little business to take care of.
Well, sir, it would be an honor if you would allow me to buy you a beer.
Hell, son, it would be my honor to drink it.
I'm Molly. Howdy.
I'm Dwight. That's Jack and Steve. Ben's behind the bar. Oh, I bet you got some great stories.
A couple.
Any of them true?
Jack, be nice.
A few.
What about your shootout with Henry Plummer's gang in Bannock, Montana? Is that where you started as a bounty hunter? That's what it says in this here dime novel.
Don't believe everything you read in them dime novels, boy. First man I hunted was back when I was riding with Billy the Kid.
You knew Billy the Kid?
Damn right. That scrawny son of a bitch had no fear. Wouldn't back down for nobody.
I heard he collected the 10 stars off any crooked lawmen who crossed him.
It was a war, boy. The Lincoln County War. And Billy promised his regulators would take the life of every bastard who helped bushwhack John Tunstall.
Kid had a big chip on his shoulder and a hair-trigger temper. Made him dangerous as hell.
So as you just saw, Silas arrives at a bar in Abilene, Kansas, saying he's just passing through. He then gets roped into telling the story of his life to the bartender Ben and the patrons Dwight, Molly, Jack, and Steve. The cutscenes are done in a sort of motion comic concept art style. It's probably to save money, but they make it work for the game. This also establishes how the gameplay will be framed for the player. A game where what happens is decided by an old man reminiscing about his youth, where details are corrected, forgotten, exaggerated, mixed up, and outright lied about. Silas starts his story with how he was riding with Billy the Kid, helping the regulators. The beginning of the story is actually told with some exaggeration, but seems to keep to reality for the most part. Silas even corrects the false belief he beat Pat Garrett in a duel, correcting it with the simple notion that Pat knocked Silas out. Now's a good time to talk about the gameplay.
Hardin in this very saloon. Suffice it to say, nobody there was happy to see me. In fact, I felt a certain hostility. I was disappointed that neither Bob nor John Wesley were among the dead.
The structure of the game is usually linear levels that could even function as a rail shooter that will morph as Silas tells a story, and it adopts a cel-shading art style that really makes the environments and enemies pop out. The levels are filled with some basic enemy types. There's single revolver enemies who are basic fodder, guys with rifles who are more accurate and more damaging, shotgunners, shield wielders, and melee rushers who charge the player, and double revolver and Gatling gunners who specialize in path denial. Occasionally some of these enemies will also have dynamite, but that's only in specific levels. To deal with these enemies, you have a handful of weapons. There are 3 types of revolvers: the quick shooters, the 6 shooters, and the rangers. A lever action rifle, a 10 gauge shotgun, sawn off shotguns, and dynamite. Each revolver has its own ups and downs. The quick shooters have the fastest fire rate and reload, but will take 3 to 5 body shots to kill someone. The rangers are the slowest, but can kill most enemies in one shot. And the 6 shooters are an in-between with neither the strengths or the weaknesses. The lever-action rifle is good for range and kills most people in one shot, and shotguns are strong up close and can sometimes get more than one enemy in one blast. Dynamite essentially is a grenade used for cover denial and the occasional boss. You use all of this to build combos of killing people. Keeping the combo up is the main goal of the game outside of reaching the end of the level, as higher combos lead to more and more experience that levels you up, and each level allows you to get more skills to get better at killing. You'll start this game with 4 and 5 kill combos, and eventually you'll start ending levels with stylish 30+ kill combos.
Anyway, we were surrounded by dozens of deputized shooters who wanted to do us harm. I'm telling you, Garrett's men were dropping like flies, but they just kept on coming. I think I got one! And in the end, a path appeared before me.
Speaking of stylish, most bosses are done through a dueling minigame, where you have to build both speed and focus as high as you can until it's time to draw, which is usually right after the enemy draws, because if you do it before, it's considered dishonorable. And once the gun is drawn, it might not be as simple as just shooting. As the farther in the game you get, it adds challenges, like having to dodge the bullets of someone faster than you, shooting 2 enemies working together, and a classical Mexican standoff. I usually do this minigame with my controller, as the mouse and keyboard feel a little too sensitive for it, but other than that, they all feel cool and stylish, and really do add to this game's cool Western aesthetic. Alright, so this will be spoilers for the rest of the story. Get out if you want, stay if you don't care and you just want to see what happens in the game.
So what happened? Did Garrett arrest you?
Yeah, after I came to, the bastard had clocked me with his Colt.
And the kid surrendered?
When he realized there was no getting out of there alive.
So they locked you up in Lincoln?
Indeed they did. Sentenced me to hang right along with the kid.
After being captured by Pat Garrett, Silas is set free by Billy the Kid and ends the second level, killing Bob Ollinger in a duel.
I killed him in a fair fight. Everybody saw I had no damn choice.
After that, Silas joined up with the Rurales. I don't speak Spanish. To help them track down the Cowboys, as a personal target was riding with the Cowboys. Silas reveals 2 of the men that he was after, Roscoe Bob Bryant and Johnny Ringo. He was specifically following the tracks of Ringo at this point. He then goes into how he almost died, but eventually survived and killed Old Man Clanton, leader of the Cowboys. After that, Silas tracked down the remaining Cowboys led by Curly Bill Brocious and Johnny Ringo to a sawmill where Curly Bill meets his end. Silas then tracked down Johnny Ringo to a camp and killed Ringo in a duel.
That's incredible, sir. I always thought that Doc Holliday was the one that killed him.
Sorry I had to ruin the legend for you, boy. But the legend ain't always true. Doc Holliday had nothing to do with the death of Johnny Ringo.
After killing Ringo and Bill, Silas picks up bounty hunting as it makes him good money. At this point, Silas starts bounty hunting while keeping an eye out for Bob, and since there's nothing major in the story happening for a while, I'll lightning round this. So after Ringo, Silas then hunts and kills Henry Plummer. After that, he hunts down John Wesley Hardin and captures him alive after a duel. He then attempts to kill Grey Wolf, an Indian, and fails, but he gets a vision of the future. He then heads to Abilene, Kansas, where the story is being told in the saloon. He puts 23 bullets in Emmett Dalton. Emmett Dalton lives. He then hunts down the other 2 Dalton brothers and kills them in a duel. Alright, back to the story. Silas reveals why he started this journey. Johnny Ringo, Roscoe Bob Bryant, and a third man named Jim hung Silas and his brothers because Silas beat the 3 bandits in a poker game. Silas survived after the branch supporting him and his brothers snapped, and he vowed revenge. Silas eventually heard Bob was riding with the Wild Bunch, led by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He found them in the midst of a train robbery, but just missed the leaders and had to settle for killing George Flatnose Curry. Butch Cassidy and Sundance left the Wild Bunch for Bolivia after that. Unfortunately, the Wild Bunch reformed under Kid Curry, so Silas had to stop them from blowing up a train trestle and kill Kid Curry while hoping to run into Bob. Right before Silas killed Curry, he was able to find out that Bob went with Butch Cassidy and Sundance to South America. Silas gave up on Bob at that point since he had no way to track them. At this point, the patrons at the bar ask Silas what happened to the third bandit, Jim. Silas reveals Jim had rode with the James Younger gang, led by Jesse James. He then tells of how he faced James's gang all by himself, and even beat Jesse in a duel, but only wounding him, while Jim also got away at the front of the train. At this point, Silas has become more erratic in his storytelling to the point that the patrons are starting to doubt if he is even the real deal while he's in the bathroom.
Excuse me, Ben. Where would I find the gentleman's facilities? Suddenly I have an urgent need to drain my one-eyed snake. Well, I've had more than a few drinks, and I've been sitting here for quite a spell.
Right through there. Let me show you.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my life.
You think he's bullshitting us?
You don't think he's Silas Greaves?
I think he's just some old drunk looking for some free liquor.
I don't know, Jack. I think I believe him. You don't think he met Jesse James?
Boy, you gotta be kidding me. That story makes no sense at all.
Jack.
I mean, you gotta be 2 bricks short of a load to believe that cock and bull story.
I don't agree.
Jack, lay off the
But
bar.
you seriously think a tired old man went toe-to-toe with Jesse James?
Well, that's better.
He regularly doesn't remember how he got out of bad situations, so Silas will just say something like, "And suddenly, a path forward appeared to me."
Look, serendipity was on my side as I suddenly spotted a way out of my predicament. And in the end, a path appeared before me that I had not seen before. A moment later, I saw a ladder that somehow had escaped my attention.
He's even lying with omission until he's called out on it by the people in the saloon.
I could see Jesse waiting for me, fixing to kill me so he could get away with all that money.
You had a showdown with Jesse James?
Of course he didn't. Everybody knows that Jesse was killed by Bob Ford.
Yeah. Jesse went out like John Wesley Hardin. Coward shot him in the back of the head.
That old shack? Well, it went tumbling right off that cliff.
With Frank James still in it?
Yes, sir.
But Frank James is still alive, living in Missouri, showing folks around the family farm for 25 cents a tour.
I didn't say he died in the fall, now did I?
In the next level, Silas has finally tracked down Jim to the place he saw in the vision when Silas hunted Grey Wolf. Silas starts to get sidetracked until Ben finally brings him back by reminding Silas that he was telling a story about hunting Jim Reed. Silas then gets back on track, telling how he killed Jim Reed in a duel after defeating, but not killing, Frank James.
I had waited a long time to face him down, so I could repay him for what he did to my brothers. And repay him I did.
Silas then tells his final story and what happened before he came to the saloon in Abilene, Kansas. Silas heard that Butch Cassidy and Sundance had returned to America and was hoping Roscoe Bob Bryant had returned with them. The level starts as any other, fighting typical bandits, but after a near-death experience at an ambush, Silas's story takes an extreme turn.
I'm gonna bury you in a building. Who the hell is that old man?
But you obviously prevailed since you're sitting here telling us today.
Actually, in that moment, I did not prevail.
So I suppose we're talking to a ghost.
Funny you should put it like that, Jack.
What was once a charming and calm demeanor to his storytelling turns into anger and madness as he starts telling his audience about fighting the ghosts of all the people he ever crossed in his life. He doesn't even take note of how the bar patrons are calling him crazy to his face.
Robert Ollinger appeared with his terrible double-barrel shotgun. But no ghost army was stopping me.
My father-in-law got hit with a falling branch. He spent the rest of his life talking to dogs.
Newman Hayes Clanton, William Brocious, John Peters Ringo, they all wanted me dead.
But it finally calms down when he faces off against Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in a Mexican standoff.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid died there in that cemetery not 6 months ago.
Silas says he killed them both, and Jack, the most skeptical of the audience, accuses Silas of not really being Silas, and Dwight asks if he's been lying the whole time. Silas responds by saying that it wasn't lies the whole time, but he feels he should pay, revealing that Ben, the bartender, is Roscoe Bob Bryant.
Maybe you're right, Jack. Maybe it's time to pay. You see, Ben, or should I say Bob, your past always catches up with you.
I was a different man back then, crazy. Drinking, I've changed my ways, I swear to you. If I could turn back the clock,
But you can't, Bob.
Silas wasn't telling these stories to entertain, but to suss out if Ben was Bob. On repeat playthroughs, some of Ben's lines that seemed innocent enough were more guilty on second viewing. That said, Ben saying Jim's last name, Reed, before Silas ever said it himself is very noticeable and leads to one of my favorite line reads in the game from Silas.
So are you gonna answer the question?
What question is that?
Jim Reed. Did you ever find him?
Reed was indeed that son-bitch's surname. That's right, Ben. A despicable character. I remember him laughing like a hyena that cold morning they lynched me and my brothers. He was intent on avoiding my vengeance, but nothing was gonna stop me. Nothing.
At this point, Ben is begging to be spared, and the player is given a choice: revenge or redemption. The redemption choice has Silas spare Ben, with Silas also giving Dwight some advice and going on his way. It's a bit anticlimactic, honestly, and I never cared for it. Revenge has Silas challenging Ben to a duel, probably the easiest duel in the game. Silas finally gets his revenge after 40 years, and he knows it hasn't fixed anything while damning himself in the process. I've always chosen this ending as it seems more fitting for someone like Silas, along with giving a few proper lines to go out on.
So where are you going now? Now that you had your revenge?
Doesn't really matter, does it? As I've sold my soul for it, and will never again walk with those I have lost.
Call of Juarez Gunslinger is probably not on a lot of people's all-time greats, but it is for me. It's a short 4-hour roller coaster of action from beginning to end, all brilliantly told by the voice of Silas, John Cygan. It's a game that I still struggle to write about, as it's something that has meant a lot to me. It doesn't have a very deep meaning, but it never fails to put a smile on my face from moment one to end. Alright, that's the end of the video. As per usual, I'm going to take this time to kind of just talk about what I want to. This took a bit longer because I had to rewrite the script 4 times. Still not entirely happy about it, but I kind of just need to get this off because it's been over a month. I'll also talk about a few things here that I didn't get to talk about in the video because I didn't know how to put it in. Gunslinger can be played on its own. You don't need to play any of the other games. It's its own little story. So if you're worried that you're missing something, it's not a lot. There's a coin in this game, and that's the only connection to Call of Juarez. Oh, there are secret items in this game, but I didn't get any footage of that because it's only reset if I reset my entire cloud save, and that's not worth it for this. You get like some XP and something on the main menu, like a secret area on the main menu that lets you interact and find out some history tidbits. Other things, there's an arcade mode. It reuses the levels but makes the enemies in different placements, and it's very fun. I didn't really touch on it because I haven't touched that since I owned this game on a console, so that's not going to be part of the review. It is good. It's very good, but yeah. There's also a duel mode where you duel every character in the game. It's very hard. You get like 5 lives, but it's a fun little time. Also, just want to kind of mention something that always makes me laugh in like the final cutscene of the good or bad ending is finding out Dwight, the kid who loves Silas, is Dwight Eisenhower, the U.S. president. There's no reason for this. It's just something put at the end of the game for no reason. But yeah, that's kind of everything I wanted to talk about with this game. I have a pretty good idea of what I want to make my next video on, and I'm not going to hint at it here because I feel doing that kind of locked me in, but that's okay. I'm glad I got this done. This is the Red Riot Robot, signing off.